Today at Houston Paint Protection, we are kicking off a new project. We have this 2023 Mercedes G63 in for whole car PPF. This G63 is optioned with matte paint from the factory, so we're going to be using a matte PPF to maintain the aesthetic while also giving the owners the physical protection that they're looking for. This vehicle has obstructions all around it that will end up causing film lines in the install if we don't remove them. So what we're going to be pulling off is the bull bar, the side indicators up front, all of the molding down the side and back of the vehicle, all of the badging, the bezel up in the top of the hood with the windshield sprayers, the emblem up front, and the door handles. These few items that we take off will give us a much cleaner install and also make it a lot easier for us to lay the film. To get a cleaner install with the PPF on the fender, we do need to start by taking off the side indicator. All you need are a couple of pry tools and either some painter's tape or a soft piece of plastic so you don't damage the film when you're wedging the shroud off. So we're going to go ahead and start by taking the shroud off first. We'll take our soft piece of plastic, little squeegee here, get that under the shroud, and there's a little entry point right here on the back corner. We'll get our flexible pry tool in there, and it just pops off just like that. The second part, we're going to use a hooked pry tool that's a little bit stiffer, and there's an opening right here in the front. Just get your tool right in there and push up. There is a wiring harness attached. Squeeze the clips, wiggle it off, and then you're done. And we will cover the contacts here with painter's tape just in case any water falls in. We don't want them to get wet. Next up, we are going to be removing the side moldings off of the G-Wagon. These are held on by double-sided tape only. Now, these long pieces do have alignment pins in them, but they're not clips, so we don't need to do any prying. Be very careful when you take these out. You can deform them if you try and bend them in one direction too much. So try and remove it as evenly as possible. And whenever you are using your fishing line or whatever medium you're going to use to take the tape off, try not to pull outwards. Pull directly sideways so you don't deform the pieces, because once they're deformed, you cannot use them again and they'll have to be replaced. So what we're going to do is grab our heat gun, heat up the double-sided tape behind it, and we are going to be using PPF liner. I prefer to use PPF liner paper for this because it's thinner, and I found it doesn't bite against the paint as aggressively as fishing line does. You can certainly use fishing line, just be very careful. You need the glue and everything around it to get warm. That way when you're working, it's not cooling down too fast. The hot ticket here is to warm up the glue as much as possible so you're not struggling to rip it off. You don't want to cause any damage to the paint or have to pull too hard and accidentally bend the molding itself. This also works best if you work it in sections, so I'll probably do like a third at a time. Otherwise, if you waste your time heating up the whole thing, by the time you make it a third of the way or halfway through, the back end of it's going to be cooled down, so it's kind of just a waste. And you can see how easy it's going to kind of cut through that glue. This is why I prefer to use the liner paper. And right there, we've hit the first alignment pin. So luckily, there is a gap in the tape around the alignment pin. So take your liner paper or fishing line out, take a look behind, and reinsert it on the back side of that alignment pin, just like that. And now we can keep going. Pulling directly sideways, not pulling out or pushing in. And as soon as I start getting some resistance, I'll back it up, grab my heat gun, and soften up the glue a little more. We're going to use both hands and just kind of rock it back and forth, upwards and downwards, and pull it straight out. Moving on to the emblem removal on the fender area, we are not going to be reusing these pieces, so we don't necessarily need to worry about damaging them. However, we do need to make sure that we know exactly where they go whenever we are to reinstall the new emblems over the paint protection film. And the way we do that is by taking the paint protection film pattern for this piece that has the cutouts for the lettering, laying it on top, and marking our reference points. So after we install the paint protection film, we can take that pattern and put it back on top with the reference points, and it'll tell us exactly where the new emblems are to be placed. Next up, we need to remove the Mercedes-Benz emblem from the hood. This one is super easy. Just get your fingers behind it and pull up, and it comes right out. Now we are going to work on the bezel that sits in the rear of the hood that has the windshield sprayers. This one pops right out. There's no tools required. You just have to have a little patience. So I've already got it loosened up, and the way it works is you want to pop the hood up a little bit and push from the back, and you want to push on the back edge first to loosen it up, and then run your fingers underneath to pop up the little retainer clips, and then work your way around to the front. Once the piece is fully loose, you're going to push it up and slide it back and out. It does not come straight out. So remember, back and up, all in one motion. I already have this loosened up, so I'm going to go ahead and pop it out for y'all. And then there are some clips and the hoses for the washer nozzles that you have to remove. So here are the electrical clips for the washer nozzles. They're just two little pinch clips that you remove and pull off the back of the bezel, and we have them taped up so we don't get water ingress. And these are held on to the back of the bezel by these little alligator clips. So they've got the reverse barbs. So the way you take these out is you need to pry them off one side at a time. What I actually like to do is get something thin like an index card or a really thin piece of metal like a pry tool, the really small ones, stick it in one side to disengage the clip, and then stick a pointed tool on the other side and just pry it out, and that will let them loose. So there's two of these, one for each nozzle that you need to get out, and after that you need to disconnect the washer fluid nozzle, which is this guy right here. And this one actually comes out very easily. On the back of the bezel, there's a little twist lock that holds it into place, so you don't have to pull it out aggressively or anything like that. Just twist the little lock and it slides right out. Now we are going to remove the bull bar so we can do a proper installation on the front bumper. This part is super easy to remove. It's two 19mm bolts, and they're located right here behind the flat surfaces on the bull bar. You are going to need a deep socket 19mm or an extension. I have already broken them loose with my breaker bar, so they're hand loose now. I'm going to go ahead and get an extra set of hands. You do need two people for this. 3 is preferable so 2 people can hold it and the other one can loosen up the bolts, but 2 people can definitely handle it. Very difficult to do alone, so if you can get some help, definitely get some help.